Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video about books to screen adaptations. I hope you enjoy! Up first we have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. The book was written in 1813 and the adaptation that I love the most is the 2005 Pride and Prejudice film. I know that's quite controversial. A lot of people who love the book prefer the miniseries because it's more truthful for the book, but oh, I love Keira Knightley so much. This is one of my favourite books of all time and the film is one of my favourite films of all time. I would like to watch the miniseries one day, but I had an English teacher at school who was obsessed with Mr. Darcy in the miniseries, and there's a scene where he's like walking out of a lake and his top's all wet, and we watched that bit in an English class, and watching your teacher swoon over a TV man is enough to put you off watching it for yourself, so yeah. Up next we have The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is The Last Wish, which isn't the first book in the Witcher series, but it's the book that season 1 of the Netflix TV show is based on. And to be honest, I watched season 1 and then I read the complete Witcher series. I read this book first and then got into the main series, and this book as a standalone is better than the whole book series together. If you're kind of contemplating about reading The Witcher, read The Last Wish and don't bother with any of the others because they're just weird, and to be honest it's put me off watching season 2 of the TV show because if they follow the books I ain't interested. But this book's pretty good and season 1 was pretty good. Geralds Game by Stephen King. This book was written in 1992 and in 2017 Netflix made a film adaptation of the book, and I think the film adaptation was amazing. It was really, really good. The book is about a woman who is left handcuffed to her bed after her husband dies of a heart attack. It's a sex game gone wrong, and the book is basically just her isolated in this cabin stuck to the bed. So when I found out Netflix were doing a film of it, I thought, how are they going to pull that off when it's just one woman with her thoughts? But they did it so well. It's such a good adaptation. This is probably one of my favourite Stephen King books, and the film does it justice. Up next is The Hunger Games. I think there's some teenage nostalgia for me with this book series. The book was written in 2008, the film came out in 2012, so I was like peak teenage years ready for these films and I was so excited. I love the books, I really love the books, and I love the films as well. I think Katniss in the films is so well done and Prim is so well done. Just, oh, they are very good, the pair of them. Up next is Good Omens. I should start making a tally of the amount of times I mention this book. People are going to get sick of me talking about it, but it is my favourite book of all time. The book was written in 1990 and the film, the TV series, came out in 2019, and I was so nervous for the TV show coming out because this is my favourite book, and we obviously lost Terry Pratchett before the TV filming was completed, so I was a bit nervous as to how it was going to go without him there supervising everything. But David Tennant is always who I've pictured as Crowley. Even the first time I read it, he was always the Crowley in my head, so he was just the perfect casting choice. I think with him in it, there could be no wrong. The TV show is pretty faithful to the book. I think it's a lot easier to do in a TV show than in a film. You've got more time. Obviously they're making a season 2 as well, which is about the drafts that Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett wrote for the second book that just never happened. So I hope it's still gonna just be mainly about Aziraphale and Crowley, which is what the rumours are saying. But yeah, my favourite book of all time and a really good TV show. So I'd recommend both, or I'd just recommend one or the other if you're not a big book reader. Watch the show. Up next we have Twilight. Again, I think my teenage years really screw this opinion for me because I love it so much. Twilight has such a special place in my heart, and I know so many people just think it's a hot pile of garbage, but I love it. And I love the films as well. And these soundtracks to the Twilight series are the best things that have, they're so good. They hold up to this day. The book was written in 2005. The film came out in 2008. Again, I was peak age at the height of Twilight fame. So I think it's always going to have a special place in my heart. But I love the films for some cheesy rubbish. Oh, I can't wait to reread this series again. I only read it the other year. Up next is The Green Mile, another Stephen King book. This was written in 1996 and the film came out in 1999. The film's like 3 hours long, more than maybe. So it put me off watching it for a really long time because I cannot commit to sitting and watching a film for that long. I can commit to sitting and reading a book for that long, but not for watching a film. So I watched the film last year and it was so good. It's really faithful to the book, but I think that's because of how long the film is. There's so much material that was kept in. Yeah, it's a really moving book and it was a really moving film, so I'd recommend both. Up next is The Hogfather by Terry Pratchett. Again, same as Good Omens. If there's ever a time I don't mention this book, there's been a problem because it's one of my favourite books of all time. The book was written in 1996 and the TV miniseries came out in 2006. It's a 2-part special that was done by Sky for Christmas and it's so good. Again, it is really faithful to the book. There is sections of the book that are missing. There's a whole storyline between a group of beggars going around Discworld that's just not included in the miniseries at all. But the story doesn't need it. It still makes sense without it. Everything they got rid of for a reason, I think, to stop it being too bulky and weird. Yeah, I watch it every year at Christmas. I read this every year at Christmas. Both are amazing. Check out both if you haven't already, please. Up next is Carrie by Stephen King. The book came out in 1974 and the best film adaptation is from 1976 with Sissy Spacek in. Couldn't get my words out. This was the first Stephen King book I ever read and the cover is disgusting. I hate the cover of this film. It's horrible, so ignore that. But I've got to keep it forever because I almost set this book on fire, so... But yeah, the film is amazing. The book is amazing. If you want to get into Stephen King, I really recommend you start with this. It's not very big and it's just wild. It's such a good book. And the film's pretty good too. Up next we have Matilda by Roald Dahl. This book is one of the first books I can remember like independently reading as a kid, and the film is just the best thing on the planet. I love it so much. I think if I had a gun to my head and someone said you must recite a film from start to finish or we shoot you, I would pick Matilda because I've watched it so many times. I know it off by heart, and the book is just so magical. I think every time I read it I feel like that kid again who has read this for the first time and is then testing out their powers by trying to get books from the bookshelf from the bed. It never worked. I'm very disappointed. I want superpowers. But it's a good book. Up next is Going Postal by Terry Pratchett. Now, I haven't actually read this book yet. I'm reading the Discworld books in series and I've kind of paused them for a bit because I'm near the end. I don't want to finish them. I need to read them. But the TV show, again, was another 2-part special done by Sky for Christmas. The TV show is amazing. So if the show's that good, I can only imagine how much better the book is going to be. But I've been putting it off reading because I know I'm going to love it and I don't want to not be able to read it for the first time again. But yeah, so this one I haven't actually read, but I know the TV show is really good. On the flip side, we have Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King, which I have read, but I haven't seen the TV show. I know it's on season 3 now, I think. It might have even finished, but I've been trying to buy the DVDs for a while, and every time I look online, they are so expensive. It's ridiculous. So I'll hold off until they get a bit cheaper. But this trilogy is probably my favourite Stephen King material, which kind of makes me a bit nervous to watch the show because I love it so much how well can the show be. But I feel like Stephen King would be very strict on his adaptations and make sure they're very faithful to the book. So I want to watch it. I haven't watched it. If you've watched it, let me know if it's any good. If you've watched and read it, let me know if it is worth it, because at the moment I'm holding on a bit. And finally, I have this, The Devil Wears Prada. This book is garbage. The film is amazing. The book is terrible. This is probably one of the only times in my life where I think the film is better than the book. I don't know why I've kept hold of this. I think it's so I can punch something every time I get upset, because this book was just so awful and the film was so good, and I was so disappointed. I've never been let down by a book as much as this. So if you've watched the film and you're thinking about reading the book, don't do it. Just save yourself the pain, please. It's so bad. These are the books to films. Or books to screens, I guess. TV shows too. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if any of these are your favourite books, or if they're films or TV shows they've been turned into are one of your favourites. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next week.